quiet moments of the morning hours, the sounds of cricket wings mix with the calls of wrens and finches. The grass glistens slightly, both from the previous night's thunderstorm and the early morning humidity. But the thick curtain that makes up late summer in the Midwest has not yet been fully unfurled. A tree stump in the middle of my yard rests evenly with the tops of the blades of grass, the only visible reminder of the once looming presence that previously stood in its place. Small organisms creep from the edges of earth and cover the sides and top of the stump. Mushrooms. A label that sounds slightly unpalatable. Mush. When in reality, these beings seem more like silk ribbons folding over top of the wood grain on the stump, dancing rather than merely growing. After the rains, mushrooms appear on the surface of the earth as if coming up from nowhere. Many mushrooms come from a vast underground fungus that remains invisible and unknown. What we may call a mushroom, mycologists call the fruiting body of the larger, less visible fungus. What we may assume is a spontaneous event that is totally disconnected from our day-to-day reality is, in fact, a culmination of deeply connected experiences. Grief looks and feels a lot like mushrooms. It's almost like I'm the lawn and the tree is a loved one that once stood tall and took up space in my life and has now been struck down, removed. My loved one has died. The stump is a visible scar in the landscape of my life, but I'm the only one who knows how deep and wide the scar travels. On the surface, perhaps it looks like I'm grieving appropriately, and there aren't too many interruptions in my daily activity due to my grief. But underneath the surface, the roots of the tree mix with earth and bugs and bacteria, and something new and different begins to shape and form and push through to the surface. A summer storm sweeps in and rains begin to pelt the ground, and my heart that has been dried out and hardened by death and loss is caressed in the tender yet relentless presence of water. For a brief moment, I give in to the tears that fall as the storm of my grief tempers through my being. I don't understand, I don't comprehend how or why these things happen. I thought I was doing just fine. I thought I had my grief under control. And then there was a smell that reminded me of what it was like to be hugged in your arms. There was a person laughing, and it reminded me of the sound of your voice. I remembered it was your birthday. And then I remembered that I can't call you. I'm so sorry. I do not know if I am justified in the amount of pain I feel, and the pain is overwhelming. But I feel guilty that maybe I did not love you as much as I could have or should have while you were still alive. And maybe I feel stuck because I didn't get to say goodbye. And now, the rains that have come and gone, the stump no longer sits empty, but it is covered in the mushrooms of grief. Ribbons of tears and memories wind their way around a previously empty space, coming up as if from nowhere. But grief has been growing beneath the surface. Before we would call it grief, we would call it a relationship, connection, affection, love. The roots of the tree of our relationship grow because of time spent together. The stump left behind feels painful because of the beauty and the shelter the tree's presence offered the earth. The energy and attention that we once used to cultivate the roots of our relationship has to go somewhere now that death has occurred. So we keep tending to our memories of those who have died. We tend to the tug at our heartstrings that reminds us that we too are finite creatures. Our grief doesn't cleanse us of our feelings, but our grief can cultivate hope deep within us. We are the ground, gazing at the tree stump, feeling the emptiness that death has brought to us. We are the rain, vessels capable of creating empathy and softening the bitter sting of separation. We are the mushrooms. We do not ignore or forget what is gone. We carry our grief with us as we learn to dance between the liminal space of death